Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So let me introduce you to what may seem a little bit of a foreign issue. This is not something that happens officially within the modern world, but the Torah portion this week spends a great deal of time discussing it, which means it might be worthy of consideration. And this is the concept of redemption. Now, redemption has many different meanings, but this is a very particular, very technical meaning of redemption. Let me set the stage for you. Imagine that you are a farmer, along with 95% of the rest of the population in the pre-modern time, and you have had a couple of bad years. Your crops have failed, there have been bandits, whatever it might be, and when it comes time for the next season's planting, you do not have the resources to plant next year's crop. Well, you're in trouble. Well, what can you do? Well, the Torah lays out very simply that you can, of course, appeal to tzedakah, but many of your neighbors might have also been a little bit short of cash. Maybe they can't help you so graciously. You can always get a loan, very importantly, without interest. That can tide you over until the crops come in, and then you can repay. But imagining none of those things work, or you tried them, and you're still unable to get out from under the pressures of this poverty, well, then you might want to sell the land. Now, this was a last-ditch effort to try and provide a stability for somebody, because by selling the land, you were no longer going to have land upon which to work that would then provide you with the food you would need to live. This was a big deal. But sometimes this is where you end up. But, says the Torah, just a moment. Before you sell it, before you do so, there can be an opportunity for redemption. That is to say, a relative can step in and say to you, hey, Joshua, before you sell that, before it goes out of the family until the Jubilee year when everything gets reset, before it goes out of our ancestral holding, how about if I take care? How about if I pay off the debt? How about if I take care of covering the costs so that way you can stay on the land? This is the first order of redemption. In fact, we see it played out in the story of the book of Ruth, where Naomi and Ruth come back and Boaz steps in to redeem the land that had belonged to Naomi's husband during their absence. Of course, if things still don't work out, you might even be forced to sell yourself. I talked about this in much more detail in my Wednesday online class, and you can catch that on YouTube. But a person could sell themselves as an indentured servant for an extended period of time, being released at the sabbatical year every 7 years, or perhaps at the Jubilee if you still don't feel that you can make it at that point. But again, hold on a minute, says the Torah, let someone else come in and they can redeem you. Before you go off into this indentured servitude, perhaps there is a family member that has the assets to pull you out of this, to prevent you from going into that dire situation. Everybody got the basic plan? Okay. Why am I bothering to pull my failing relative out of the hole again and again and again? I mean, think of it. Okay, fine. I work my farm. He works his farm. And my farm's doing okay. That's why I have the resources that I could be able to help him. His farm's not doing okay. Why should I have to squander what I have worked for to drag him out of the hole that he has dug for himself? I mean, really? Really? And this is a mitzvah. It is a commandment. It's not just God saying, you know, if you were a nice guy, you do it. But God is telling me I have to do it if I can? I mean, way to put me on the spot. What incentive is there for my relative to actually work harder? He knows I'm there as a safety net. This seems like a really bad idea, God. Where is the capitalist spirit in your heart? We should be able to thrive or not thrive, each on our own. And, you know, God, stay out of it. I can imagine quite easily a person feeling this way, especially if there was some significant discrepancy between the amount of effort that one family member put into handling their allotment and a different family member put into another. But to unwrap it, we need to understand some of the deeper concepts the Torah tries to give us. The Torah introduces in a number of different places, not least of which is in this parasha, a concept known as a ger toshav. And you're going to have to walk with me along a little detour here before we come back God is the one who put the detour here, so don't blame me. A ger toshav is a resident alien. Now, it's kind of a strange combination. Speaking personally, when my wife got her permanent alien card, that was also a bit of a monumentous occasion for our family. Being British, of course, she went from being a temporary permanent alien until she was a permanent alien. The concept in Judaism is a little different than the American immigration. That is to say, in Judaism, we recognized that there would be some people who lived in the land of Israel and they were not Jewish. Now, how should they be treated? Well, the Torah lays it out very explicitly, that there is one law governing everyone. In civil cases, if they come up and they say, this guy didn't complete his contract, they are treated equally according to the law as if they were a native born. If there is a criminal case, they are treated equally. If someone steals from them, that is theft, and they will be handled accordingly. And when there is the opportunity for a sacrifice, if they wish to offer a sacrifice, they certainly can. Just like the rest of us, they don't get to do the actual officiation. That's reserved for the Kohanim. But they certainly can bring an offering as long as it fits the criteria of being an acceptable Jewish animal for an offering. They are absolutely welcome to come even up to the altar and do so. There are a few distinctions where if they're not actually members of the tribe, so to speak, there are a few ritual limitations, but as far as the legal standing goes, they are protected equally along with everybody else within the land. Now, why is that important? Because that was not normal in the ancient world. In fact, we see an example of where somebody is called a ger under very different circumstances, and we can then recognize why the Torah had to spell this out. The most famous example of someone being accused of being an alien, of being an outsider, is in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Hopefully I don't need to go through the whole story, but in the particular episode I'm referring to, we have Lot. Lot was the nephew of Abraham, and you may remember he went down into Sodom and Gomorrah because it looked like a nice place to live. Turned out to be full of a lot of rotten people in really good zip code. But he was down there, and then when the angels come to visit, the people of that town wish to have the angels and to abuse them. And Lot says, no, you shouldn't do this. This would be terrible. And what do the people of the town say? Ho, ho, ho! Here comes Mr. Resident Alien, and he thinks he's going to call the shots. He thinks he gets to tell us what to do. That is to say, you have no status here. You're an outsider. You're a foreigner. You may have lived here for a few years, but we don't consider you one of us. You're only here by our tolerance, by our patience. And now that you're getting a little uppity, now that you're telling us that we're not allowed to abuse and murder these two people who wandered into our town, we are going to attack you instead. That, unfortunately, was not uncommon for the treatment of strangers throughout the ancient world. Somebody who was not from your tribe, not from your people, would often have no rights at all, or very, very limited rights. They would be treated harshly, and there would be no one to stand up for them, no one to protect them. So what does this have to do, and why does God mention this in this particular parasha, specifically with regards to redemption? Because God actually makes the astounding claim that we are all ger toshav, we are all resident aliens. That is to say, he is talking to Israel about the people of Israel living in the land of Israel and saying, while you are there, nonetheless, to me, in my eyes, you, like the rest of humanity, are resident aliens. You are temporary. I am eternal, says God. You are temporary. I am the one who truly owns this world, and thus I am the one who can truly set the rules for how one will behave. So if you would begrudge the other, thinking, I don't want to help him, I don't want to redeem him, I don't want to step in, it's his own mess, it's his own fault, I should not have to be bothered with this, recognize that it is the land that you have profited from that has put you in a position where you can even consider being able to help. That land belonged to God, and God gave it to you for the reason that you would be in a position to be able to help someone else. If you are not now willing to use what God gave you for the reason God gave it to you, then why did God give it to you in the first place? You are not entitled to the land. It is not truly yours. You are custodians, you are temporary residents, and as such, you will follow the instructions of the actual landlord, that is to say, of God. It is not a concept that sits easy with us. We, especially in the United States, have a proud and good tradition of individualism and of feeling driven to achieve by ourselves. And the Torah does, in many other places, give great room for a person to thrive and to succeed in ways that will be responsive to their own efforts and their own labors. But in the process, we have to make sure that we are still acknowledging that what we succeed with was, in fact, God's property. It was God's gift to us, and it was a gift that came with strings. The strings are the Torah. They are the instructions that we were given of how we would use the blessing of life, the blessing of the land, the blessing of our prosperity. So when another is in need, we should look at ourselves, and if we can help them, we should be thankful that we have that capacity in our hands, and we should then open them to those that are in need. Shabbat Shalom.